sustainable tourism and successful entrepreneurship can definitely go hand in hand because it's not just about being sustainable, it's about selling it too. And you can only sell it successfully by communicating sustainability successfully.
Welcome to Sustainable Today, Successful Tomorrow, where we explore real-world sustainable tourism stories that actually work. This is our very first episode recorded from our living room here in Bali. Before we get started, Anne, can you explain what this series is all about?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll be diving into real world stories of sustainable tourism that actually work. We'll be talking to travel businesses, discussing their interviews, and really diving into their impact, their challenges, and what it takes to be sustainable and successful. We'll be sharing these entire interviews as well. And we'll also have episodes where it's just us two discussing our expertise and sharing knowledge and reflecting on projects we've worked on.
So in these conversations, we're always going to be honest, we're always going to be practical, and we're always going to be focused on what actually works.
Exactly.
And we've been having these conversations or discussions for years now, and we use them as a foundation for the Good Tourism Institute.
Yeah.
We've used them to build our programs, write articles, create videos, and basically any type of content we've created in the past years has been based on these discussions.
Yeah.
And for this series, we thought, let's just press record and share them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very excited to start doing this.
So to dive right in, for today, we picked a theme, sustainable marketing, which is really close to home. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
And we feel like people are talking about it more and more. It's not just us.
Yep.
So in this episode, we're going to dive deep into what is sustainable marketing in the tourism industry, but more importantly, what it should and shouldn't do. And one thing we've noticed is that businesses kind of struggle with communicating their sustainable practices in a way that's really connecting to their target group. Why do you think that is?
It has several reasons, but one of the main reasons is that travel businesses are afraid to greenwash. So they're afraid to oversell their sustainability practices and then be called out for it. At the same time, they're also feeling that travelers are not interested in what they have to say. And then also at the same time, they are not really sure what to share about sustainability.
So you're saying that businesses feel like travelers don't really care, but research suggests otherwise, right?
Yeah, true. So there's a lot of research out there that confirms travelers are aware about sustainability, that they care about it. So for example, Expedia did a really big research a few years ago, and the outcome was that 90% of travelers are looking for sustainable options. Studies of booking.com confirm that 4 out of 5 travelers are interested in sustainability. So yeah, definitely the case that travelers are interested.
So the interest is there, but the bookings lack.
Yeah, and I think this is what we call the say do gap, which is the gap between what travelers say they want to do, so booking more sustainable trips, versus what they actually do, so not always booking sustainable trips.
And why do you think they're not booking them?
Yeah, there are multiple reasons for that, but travelers are holding back because of availability of sustainable tourism, trust, price, clarity. So there are multiple reasons why travelers decide to, in the end, not book a sustainable trip, even though they are aware and say they care about it.
What I noticed when I stepped into the tourism industry about 5, 6 years ago was that the genuine sustainable businesses weren't really communicating about their practices, which was kind of strange to me because I have a marketing background and I felt like they're putting in the hard work, but they're not really looking at it from a business perspective. Because if you're doing all the hard work, why are you not communicating about it?
Yeah.
And that might be a reason for their lack of success in some cases. Do you feel like it could go hand in hand, the sustainability and success factor?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it can definitely go hand in hand if these travel businesses can overcome certain challenges that travelers are experiencing. For example, lack of awareness or trust. And I think for a lot of travel businesses that are in it for the right reasons, that have intrinsic motivation to be sustainable, They also feel that sharing that they are sustainable and that their trips are sustainable is enough to convince the traveler to book with them.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not what is actually the priority of the traveler. So it's not enough to convince them to book with them.
So the roadblocks you're referring to, that's part of a World Economic Forum and Accenture paper, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the World Economic Forum launched a paper that goes into six main roadblocks, like barriers that are holding travelers back in booking more sustainable trips. And this causes a say do gap. And if these roadblocks are not overcome by travel businesses, yeah, the say do gap will still exist.
I kind of read up on this article and dug it up out of our archives before recording this. And one that really stood out to me was the lack of awareness,
Yep.
which is something that we experience ourselves more than once.
Yep.
One example that stuck to me was this family barbecue we were having about a year ago.
Yep.
We bore our families with sustainable tourism stories more than
Okay.
they'd like to.
Yep.
But after one of these talks, like straight after, someone pulled out their phone to show us this cool video about a friend walking with a lion. I believe it
Yeah.
was somewhere in Senegal.
Senegal. Yeah.
And it was right after we had a sustainable tourism talk, but there was a clear lack of awareness in how unsustainable this was. This is what happens a lot because people aren't sure what sustainability in tourism actually is.
And I think this is also because the definition of sustainable tourism is quite vague and has quite a lot of different interpretations. So even though my family members are interested in sustainable tourism and they support what we do and they think about travel sustainable themselves, but at the same time, they didn't see at first what was wrong with walking with lions.
Yeah, we kind of had to explain it.
Because the first reaction was, that is so cool.
How can you be this close to a lion?
And to be honest, it is cool. However, the whole process before a lion can actually walk with a human in a way that you do with tourism experiences is very unnatural and very painful for the lion.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. Yeah.
And how do you feel that travel businesses can help in this education process?
So it's really about making sustainability easier, visible, and more appealing. And to overcome this roadblock of lack of awareness is to really practically share what sustainable tourism is and to provide examples. So very practical. What does it mean and how does this look like?
Yeah, being very practical and very transparent about what it is that you're doing.
Exactly.
I feel there's a lot of ground to be won in that area, and sustainable communication can definitely play a big part in this.
Absolutely.
And one other part that's kind of lacking behind, I feel, is credibility and trust.
Yeah.
With all the greenwashing going on out there, it's difficult for travelers to kind of spot what is sustainable and what is not.
Yeah.
Even for us, it's difficult to figure out your way around it, what is sustainable, what isn't.
Yeah.
And I had to think back to, we traveled last year to South Africa,
Yeah.
and
Oh, I know where this is going.
we wanted to do a safari close to Cape Town, but
Yeah.
close to Cape Town, it's private reserves only.
Yeah.
And what these private reserves have down is talking about sustainability without actually being sustainable.
Yeah.
So they talk a big game, but at the same time, they offer experiences like cheetah runs. Do you remember?
Yeah, because I'm really, one of my biggest dreams is to actually spot a cheetah in the wild. So what you said, like we were looking for a game reserve where you could actually do that. And then when we thought we found a game reserve that did that, where you can go on a private walk to actually spot cheetahs, we found out that the cheetahs also do cheetah runs at afternoon tea time or 4 o'clock sharp.
That's exactly when they start running, right?
Yeah, but that's
Completely
also
natural.
exactly the point where we said, this is not right. Like, this is number one greenwashing rule. But the thing is that their story looked quite good.
Aside from the cheetah walk,
Yeah.
they had it down. So it was difficult for us to spot out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of this type of greenwashing going around, especially with the kind of private companies
Yeah.
who do have a good marketing team
Yeah.
and do know what travelers are looking for. I mean, how cool is it to see a cheetah run at full speed? It's not something you can force.
No, and I think this is also exactly where it comes down to that travelers are interested in sustainability. They are aware of it, but they lack the knowledge and tools to actually spot greenwashing or when it's not really executed in a sustainable way. And this is where the role of genuine sustainable tourism business comes in because they do have the responsibility to be better in communication about sustainability.
What do you think that they can like practically do to earn that trust?
Again, comes back to transparent and practical communication. So it's really important that they support their stories with examples, with data. Certification is also a good tool, but to really focus on genuine connection with the traveler and to really share what it is that you're actually doing, not making promises, not overselling, but really what it is that you do, why are you doing it, and why is it good for the traveler?
One thing I'd like to add is that it should be an added value to your product.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be just like you should do this because it's sustainable. People don't really like to be told what to do. You need to show why it's an added value to
yeah,
the actual sustainable experience.
exactly. And I think this is also sometimes a mismatch in communication of these genuine tour operators that are in it for the right reasons, because they often communicate in a way that comes across as preaching. So you can't do this, you have to do this, and not really thinking about the opportunities that sustainable tourism does bring. Because in the end, the traveler is looking to have an amazing experience. And because they care about sustainability, what you said, like they will see it as an added value and they will choose a sustainable business over another one if the experience they can have is similar.
Yeah.
And the whole goal of sustainable marketing is to share your travel experience that is sustainable, but in a way that appeals to the traveler and then share about what the positive impact is of that trip. But the experience of the traveler should be your priority in communication.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it shouldn't only be about the negative as well. I think a lot of businesses are focusing on you can't do this or you shouldn't do that, but
Yeah.
what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Focus on the alternative and show how it's better than the unsustainable.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the appealing part. So how can you enrich your experience by traveling sustainably, meeting local people or seeing wildlife up close in the wild? There's nothing better than seeing a lion roaming around in their natural habitat. There's nothing fun about walking with them on a leash.
And I think that sustainable marketing can really shine in this area and can make your business grow and have a positive light on what it is that you're actually doing.
Yeah, exactly. Because if no one knows that you're sustainable and you can have the most sustainable products or experiences of your country, if you're not able to communicate it in a way that appeals to travelers or makes them care, it won't make a difference. Because if they are not traveling with you, you can't share your experiences or actually sell them.
Exactly. It's not about just having a great product, but it's about gaining understanding and trust from your target group. Would
Yeah,
you agree?
yeah, yeah.
It's not about just checking a box. It's about making your business actually stand out and to show your target group why your sustainable option is better than the alternative.
Yeah.
And we've talked about awareness and credibility, which both can be tackled through communication. And that's where we want to close off because there's many more of these roadblocks and we can make an hour and a half episode, but we wanted to stick to what we feel are the most important too. So to close off, do you have any tips for the businesses to get started right away?
Yeah, so I think the main tip is that yes, sustainable tourism and successful entrepreneurship can definitely go hand in hand because it's not just about being sustainable, it's about selling it too. And you can only sell it successfully by communicating sustainability successfully. And you have to do that in a practical, transparent way for it to be effective. And at the same time, you have to keep in mind that you have to be appealing to your traveler And these two things are very important to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. And if you want to really take the first step, we'll link to the Say Do Gap article in our description so you can read about all the roadblocks, all six of them.
And also the article includes how to overcome them. It has practical tips on what can you do to make sure that the roadblock is no longer an issue for your traveler.
So, on that note, we'd like to close off and thank you all for listening. And we hope you enjoyed this very first episode.
And we would also love to hear from you. So share your main challenges in communicating sustainability. So thank you for listening, and we hope you join us for our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.